Hello and welcome to the Following Truth Bible Study on YouTube. My name's LJ. I'm your host as always. Thank you very much for joining me today. For those that are watching live, and if you're watching this on playback on YouTube, thank you for coming and watching it. So today we're going to be continuing on with our study into the textual variants and looking at the textual criticism and the readings that are found in the KJV and in modern versions of the Bible. In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at some of the more stranger readings that can be found in specifically in the Codex Sinaiticus, but also Vaticanus as well. Now, Vaticanus and Sinaiticus are the two major codices that are used when it comes to producing the modern critical text. So when you see or you hear somebody say, the oldest and the best manuscripts say this, or they omit this, or when somebody is referring to the oldest and best manuscripts, these are the manuscripts that are being referred to. Whether they know that or not, the majority of the readings that are found in the critical text are based on Vaticanus and Sinaiticus. Now, I believe the Westcott and Hort text, which was kind of the origination of this modern critical text, the revised text that has now gone into the modern critical text. You were talking some 98% of the readings which were found in Westcott and Hort were based on Vaticanus and Sinaiticus. Vaticanus, the majority of, but those two manuscripts. So I am going to be trying to. This study is not going to be huge. There are lots and lots of readings that I could go into, but I'm not. I don't want to just present lots and lots of examples because otherwise it's just going to get a bit tedious. There are lots of examples that can be used. But I just want to kind of show what Sinaiticus and Vaticanus, the kind of readings that are found in these two best and oldest manuscripts that are predominantly the basis of this modern critical text. And I just want to kind of give an example, and then I'd like to see if anybody would if anybody's interested in coming on and discussing. It doesn't have to be on critical textual criticism. It doesn't have to be in response to these two. If you want to get involved in anything else, feel free to do so. More than happy to do that. If you want to make comments in the comments, I will try to interact with some comments if you want to post them in. Obviously, I am doing the presentation, so I may not be able to. I may not see them straight away, but I will try to answer questions and or respond to the comments. And obviously, feel free to chat amongst yourselves while you're here. And obviously, if you would like to let everybody know that you're here, put yourself in the comments. So I'll get on with that. I'll try and get through it as quick as possible, and then we can try and get to some kind of conversation or discussion afterwards. So Codex Sinaiticus and Vaticanus are the two. They're not the oldest manuscripts, but they are the two oldest kind of complete Bibles, or they're not fully complete. The Sinaiticus contains a complete New Testament, but it doesn't contain a complete Old Testament. Vaticanus contains quite a lot of the Old Testament. It's missing the Book of Revelation and some others, but it's these are like two big codices that are the oldest kind of complete or nearly complete Bibles, that the manuscripts that we have. Vaticanus dates to somewhere 325 to 350, whereas Sinaiticus around about 350. But if you say 325 and 350, that's kind of the area that we're looking at. There is obviously another major manuscript, which is Alexandrinus, which comes to us early part of the 5th century, somewhere between 400 and 440, which is it does in modern textual criticism, it is kind of given a good amount of authority, but not as much as these two codices would be anyway. So when, like say, when you carbon dating, they haven't been carbon dated. In fact, actually, Sinaiticus was due to be carbon dated not that long ago, and actually they refused to allow the team to go in and carbon date it. And one of the arguments that I will present in the future is this: so there are people out there that actually, at the moment, that are in modern textual criticism, there are certain scholars out there that actually state that Sinaiticus is not from the not from the 4th century, not dated back all the way back then, and has actually a 19th century product and was created in the 19th century. One of those would be David Daniels in the world's oldest Bible, or is the world's oldest Bible of fake. This is where he puts his argumentation. Now, he's not the only one that argues this. There are pushbacks against that, and people have written against Sinaiticus being not being a forgery. Basically, people like James Snap Jr. has done arguments against the kind of writings of this. So this one is David W. Daniels, this book, but Stephen Avery pushes the possibility of this being a fake, and some others as well. I'm still searching into that, and I'm not 100% positive on either way, which way I'm falling at the moment. I see arguments on both sides, but yeah, there is a possibility that even Sinaiticus is not an original or an early manuscript. Okay, John. Yeah, I know that last time you had to. I think you had to leave last time as well. It is quite late, and I understand. But thank you very much for being here. So yeah, so when somebody says the oldest and best manuscripts, it is these two manuscripts that are being referred to. Now, though, like I say, the Westcott and Hort text is primarily made up of those. Now, while at one time Sinaiticus and Vaticanus may very well have been kind of the oldest manuscripts that we had, they are not by any means the oldest manuscripts that we have anymore. We have papyri that predate these by possibly even up to 200 years, depending on where P52 is basically dated. When it was first kind of found, P52, it was really it was given a really early date of kind of early part of the 2nd century. There's been a lot of pushback against that kind of dating, although I would still say that the vast majority of people would say that it's still kind of mid 2nd century. to the end of the 2nd century. There are some that would say that it's into the 3rd century, but we're still talking 3rd century manuscript at kind of latest. So it still predates these two manuscripts by maybe 100 years or so. And we do have at least 30 papyri that predate these two manuscripts. And we have other manuscripts as well. So they're certainly not the oldest. And it's my contention that they are certainly not the best. While it was first, so there's, if you read Westcott and Hort's argumentations, like earliest is kind of, the earlier the better, but that's just been proven to be false. Just because a manuscript is early does not mean that it is reliable. We have early manuscripts that are absolutely atrocious. Manuscript D, for example, is just, the readings in there are terrible, yet it is an early manuscript. And then we have manuscripts from the 10th, 11th, 12th century that when you study them, if you go on against textual criticism, they're very reliable manuscripts, and they're very well done. So just because a manuscript is old, it does not necessitate that it is reliable or it is a good manuscript. And it has to be shown that manuscript is a good manuscript, and not just taken because it's old. It must be good and reliable, which is what happened with Vaticanus and Sinaiticus. And it's still repeated today that Vaticanus and Sinaiticus are the best and oldest manuscripts, but they're not. Studies by Hermann C. Hoskier in the early 20th century into the manuscripts show that they differ in readings between themselves in more than 3,000. So just Sinaiticus and Vaticanus, we're not talking about between any other manuscript, just these two. They differ between themselves in some 3,000 places in the Gospels alone. So they are old, but they don't even agree with one another in over 3,000 places in just the Gospels, in those in the four books, where they omit words, they have different readings, and we'll look into some of those. Now, it must be noted that both the Vaticanus and Sinaiticus both contain apocryphal books, and they are contained within the manuscripts as if they are scripture. They're not differentiated between, they are integrated, and so there are apocryphal books within those two manuscripts. So if you're going to say that they're the best manuscripts, and you also are going to say that the apocrypha are not inspired texts, then you're kind of arguing against yourself. So they're the best and most reliable manuscripts, but they contain scriptures that are not inspired scripture. And if they do contain non-inspired scripture as if it was scripture, then how are they the best and most reliable manuscripts? So it's kind of a circle. You can go in a circle and disprove the argument just on that basis. So I don't understand how people can say, well, they are the best and most reliable manuscripts, and then also say that the apocrypha is not scripture at the same time. So again, I'm not going to be doing a complete list. I just want to give some examples, and then we'll get into some chat. Now, according to John Bergen, or Bergen, depending on how you pronounce the G. I call him Bergen, but it may be Bergen. Sinaiticus contains, and so this is in his book, in the revision revised. So this is an old book, but in that he states that Sinaiticus contains over 1,000 unique readings, and Vaticanus has 589 unique readings in the Gospels. So they're unique, as in no other manuscript that we have contains that particular reading, so that it is unique to that manuscript. And Sinaiticus contains over 1,000, Vaticanus over 589 in the Gospels. So no other manuscript contains these readings. So let's have a look at some of the examples. So in Revelation 4:8, and obviously if you want to follow along and you've got a Bible, you can have a look. If you've got multiple Bibles, you can see the differences between modern versions of the Bible and also the KJV, which is the one obviously that I use. You can go on Bible Hub, obviously, and then you can see the parallel verses. Now, in Revelation 4:8, there is there is a triad declaration. Now, in my previous video, I actually said that it was in Isaiah 6:3, but there is a holy, 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 holy in there. But it's actually in this verse that Sinaiticus makes a very, very strange reading. So in the verse, there is a triad declaration of holy, holy, holy. And it's repeated 3 times, the Greek word hagios. So it's repeated 3 times. So Revelation 4:8, and the 4 beasts had each of them 6 wings about him, and they were full of eyes within, and they rest not day and night, saying, Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, which was and is to come. So that's the KJV. Now, that triadic reading is found in virtually all major Bibles of the including but not limited to the NIV, ESV, NASB, the Net Bible, the ISV, the ASV, ERV, and Young's Literal Bible. So they all contain that triadic declaration of the holy, holy, holy. But if we go to, so that is also found in the Westcott and Hort text and the Greek text that underlies the UBS and the Nestle-Aland 27 and 28 text. They can have that repeated the 3 times. Sinaiticus, however, repeats the word holy 8 times, and I'm going to show you that in so if I can share my screen. Now you can find this online, and it is in Codex Sinaiticus. So there, so I will share that, and I'll bring that up. So it's here in verse here, verse 8, and so we see that the text here, and then we have this 8 times repeated, and this text is over here. If you click you'll be able to, on the word, it changes, and you can see each time there, and it has this holy 8 times, and it's repeated there. So this is just on the Codex Sinaiticus website, which anybody can go and have a look, and you just put in Revelation up here, chapter there, and verse. I've got 9 because if you put in verse 8, it doesn't complete verse 8 down here, so you have to go to verse 9 because it's on the other page, but then the rest of verse 8 is then contained on there. So verse 9 starts there, And then you have this 8-fold repetition that can be found there. Now, what is interesting about this 8-fold repetition, we can say that this isn't a copyist error. This is not a scribal error. You don't write a word 8 times instead of 3 as a mistake. Even if you allow that, as I said in my last video, even if you allow that he's repeated, he's written the holy, 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 and then he's looked back and he's seen holy, holy, holy again, and he hasn't maybe realized that he's written it, or he's just mistaken that he can see another 3 holy, holy, holy. You can get 6. Now, that's really pushing it. Now, you could possibly get to 9 repetitions, but that's kind of being ridiculous to say that there's a possibility that this scribe has looked back and seen 9 holy, holy, holies instead of 3. I can possibly argue for, or you can argue for maybe 6. But even saying that, if you did it 3 times, then you would still get 9, but you don't. You get 8. So I think this is a deliberate and conscious decision that the scribe has made to include the word 8 times. So you get this 8 times, and I think that is deliberate. It is interesting that the UBS and Nestle-Aland, like I said, do not include the 8 repetitions, even though the authority of the manuscript. And remember that the Vaticanus manuscript does not contain revelation. So the only reading, the early reading that we would have is coming from Sinaiticus. So the Sinaiticus is going to be the one that has the authority there, because Vaticanus doesn't have its own reading. So we would, you can only really say that that Sinaiticus has to have, then the reading of the modern textual text should have that 8-fold, but they don't. It's still 3-fold repetition. So when it comes to the longer ending of Mark, obviously the longer ending of Mark is brought into doubt because of Vaticanus and Sinaiticus. But it makes no sense then that we have attestation to this 8-fold repetition, but they ignore it here, even though Sinaiticus is, that authoritative manuscript. So what is this 8-fold? And I think that there's an important reason why the scribe used this 8-fold, and it is a theory, but it is one that I think that is possible. And this could be the sign of an octo echo, or at least an allusion to an octo echo. But this wasn't developed as a concept until much later with John of Damascus, now in the 7th or 8th century. And so if this is an octo echo, and you'd have to, I'm not going to go into what an octo echo is, but basically it is the repetition of something 8 times. But this would categorically rule out Sinaiticus from being a 4th century manuscript if and I don't say that it 100% is, but if it is an octo echo, which wasn't developed until the 7th and 8th century, then this couldn't possibly be a 4th century manuscript. So it is something that I'm looking into, and it is a possibility. Okay, so what else? So we've got Revelation 7:4. Revelation 7:4 in the KJV, and I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. And I'm sure that most people have heard about the 144,000. 144,000 is the reading of basically all major Bibles, the NIV, ESV, and such. And it's the reading of the Westcott and Hort text. It's also the reading of the Nestle-Aland text as well, the UBS text. And we know that 144,000 is correct because of verse 5, Revelation verse 5. So it's basically there's 12 tribes and there's 12,000 sealed from each tribe. 12 times 12 is 144. So 12,000 times 12,000. 12 times 12,000 is 144,000. 12,000 from each tribe equals 144,000. We know that it's 144,000. This is the reading of the majority of manuscripts, and it's just simple mathematics. However, Sinaiticus reads in Revelation 7:4 140,000. So it's obviously in error because it reads 4,000 short. It's 144,000. 140,000 in Sinaiticus, but we know that it's 144. 144,000 is also found in Revelation 14:3 as well. And they sung as it were a new song before the throne and before the four beasts and the elders, and no man could learn the song but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. So we know that these two verses, they're talking about the same group of people. It's 144,000, 12,000 from each tribe. Again, this is the reading of all major Bibles. It's the reading of the Westcott and Hort text and the Nestle-Aland text. But Sinaiticus has the reading 141,000 here, in contrast to the 140,000 back in Revelation 7:4. So not only does Sinaiticus, is it incorrect because it's not 140 or 141,000, but it actually contradicts itself. It argues against itself in these two verses. So how reliable is this manuscript? Why is the reading 140,000 or 141,000 not adapted or adopted by the modern critical texts? Seeing that there is no reading in Vaticanus to counter this, and Sinaiticus is that other manuscript with that authority. But they don't follow along in this one. Revelation 21:5. And he that sat upon the throne said, Behold, I make all things new. And he said unto me, Write, for these words are true and faithful. Behold, I make all things new. Again, I think this is a word that a lot of people would be aware of, this wording. However, the Sinaiticus reads, I make all things empty. No modern Bible follows along with this. New is the reading in most Bibles. You have to remember, again, all of these Revelation readings, there is no reading in Vaticanus for these, so there's no opposition to Sinaiticus by Vaticanus in these readings. Revelation 25. But the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. Now, many Bibles have the words there, but the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished. But They are not found in Sinaiticus. Those words are not in Sinaiticus, and in fact, some modern Bibles do actually include those in brackets, at least. So they're showing here that that the words are not found in Sinaiticus. So they put those into brackets. The NIV, ESV, and the Net Bible, for example, all of those are in brackets. So those words, but the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished, not in Sinaiticus. But it seems like the modern texts, like the Net Bible and the NIV and such, that are the modern versions of the Bible translated from the critical text, they're kind of picking and choosing which ones are going to bracket, despite the fact that there are variations in Sinaiticus and we don't have Vaticanus to oppose it. They're kind of picking and choosing which ones they're going to make note of and which ones they're going to bring to the reader's attention, which ones are just going to totally ignore, and which ones are just going to change completely. So like Sinaiticus 140 and 141, nobody reads that. It's all 144,000. So they've just basically ignored that and not brought any attention to it. Mark 6:22. In this verse, we are told that the daughter of Herodias, the wife of King Herod, danced for the king. Mark 6:22. And when the daughter of the said Herodias came in and danced and pleased Herod, and then that sat with him, the king said unto the damsel, ask me whatsoever thou wilt, and I will give it to thee. So we know this is obviously when she asks for the head of John the Baptist, but this is the daughter of Herod's wife Herodias, but not his daughter. And this is the reading of all the majority of the modern versions, including the NIV, ESV, and NASB. But in Sinaiticus, it has the reading, his daughter. Herodias came in and danced, thus making Herodias, his wife, his daughter. So this is a really strange and peculiar one, because it's not even saying the daughter of Herodias, who was his wife, came and danced, and it's not calling the daughter his daughter, which would be wrong, because in obviously we know that Herodias and Herod, their marriage was not a legal marriage, so he couldn't be classified as the father. It wasn't a legal. It wouldn't have been allowed for him to be the legal father. So even if it was just his daughter, this would be incorrect. But actually, it calls his wife his daughter. So so it actually reads, his daughter Herodias came in and danced for him. And so clearly an error. But also, this is the reading of Vaticanus as well. So this is Mark. So obviously we have Vaticanus readings here, unlike in the Revelation. But both Vaticanus and Sinaiticus make the mistake here. But this isn't followed by the major texts. There are a few other manuscripts, like D, as I've pointed out already, which is just a really, really terrible manuscript. But D does read in the same way here. But there are, although the vast majority of Bibles do not follow this reading, there are some modern Bibles that actually have done that, such as the Net Bible. So the Net Bible, so this is Dan Wallace's Net Bible, states, when his daughter Herodias came in and danced, she pleased Herod, and his dinner guests. The king said to the girl, "Ask me for whatever you want, and I will give it to you." But in Matthew 14:6, so this is the kind of parallel writing of that, we get another account in Matthew 14:6. So that reads, "But when Herod's birthday was kept, the daughter of Herodias danced before them and pleased Herod." That's the KJV. But now the Net Bible contradicts itself by rendering the verse "the daughter of Herodias," not Herodias, the daughter of Herod. So if you have a look at that, Matthew 14:6, "But on Herod's birthday, the daughter of Herodias danced before them and pleased Herod." And so the Net Bible, which has followed this clearly incorrect, excuse me, this clearly incorrect reading back in Mark, has now created a contradiction in its own Bible, in its own readings, by calling Herodias the daughter of Herod, but now it's the daughter of Herodias, or that's the Herodias. Sorry. So all the H's are confusing me there. So you have this contradiction that have been created by the Net Bible. That's basically the UBS and Nestle-Aland renders the same as Sinaiticus and Vaticanus, as did the Westcott and Hort text. Now, Luke 1:26, I'm going to try and get through just a few more. Luke 1:26, "And in the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent from God unto a city of Galilee named Nazareth." And that's in the KJV. However, Sinaiticus reads, "a city of Judea named Nazareth." Nazareth is not in Judea. So it's a geographical error, as Nazareth is in Galilee, not Judea, and there's about 150 kilometers between them. So there's a big error in the reading and where Nazareth actually is. You can't defend that reading. It's just clearly in error. Okay, Matthew 13:35. "Which prophet stated the words Matthew 13:35, "that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet, saying, I will open my mouth in parables. I will utter things which have been kept secret from the foundation of the world." So the prophet is not mentioned, but it is stated that something was spoken by the prophet. But the prophet is unnamed, and this is found in, again, the vast majority of Bibles, again in the Westcott and Hort text, and it's not identified in the Nestle-Aland and UBS text either. But Sinaiticus does name the prophet, and the prophet that Sinaiticus names is Isaiah. So it says this was spoken by the prophet Isaiah, and then it states, "I will open my mouth in parables," etc. Now the problem is that when we find those words back in the Old Testament, we actually find that this is in Psalm 78. So in Psalm 78:2, "I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old." And that's what is being quoted there by Matthew in 13:35. But when we go to the first verse we are told who utters those words. And we will find that it's actually the prophet Asaph. And in Psalm 78:1, Miskal of Asaph, give ear, O my people, to my law, incline your ears to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old. So this is, the prophet is Asaph, but Sinaiticus, while Matthew doesn't name the prophet, Sinaiticus does name the prophet, and it incorrectly names the prophet. Now, there's also the reading, 1 Chronicles 19:17. And I'll show you this in the manuscript, because this is a massive error that the copyist did not even notice that he'd made this mistake. But he jumped from the middle of basically one book into the middle of another. And it is, it's in 1 Chronicles 19:17. So we go to 1 Chronicles, and then we can go to, it's in the duplicate there, 19 and verse 17. And what happens is that, where are we? There. So we're on verse 16, verse 17. So 1 Chronicles has, if I bring it up, 1 Chronicles 17, 1. Chronicles 17:1, Bible Hub. Right, so 1 Chronicles has 29 chapters. There's 29 chapters. I should have had that ready. There are 29 chapters in 1 Chronicles, but the scribe who is copying Sinaiticus, he jumps all the way, and there's no space, so it's not like he's deliberate. So this hasn't been lost. There's no space between this. There's no gap, or there's no missing manuscript. This isn't damaged. This is the scribe who literally went from verse 17 there and jumped, as you can see there, into second Ezra, verse 9, chapter 9, verse 9. He literally left out the remainder of 1 Chronicles, and then the beginning of 2nd Ezra's. And that's how it reads. He finishes the line there. That's this word. This finishes where he's finished on verse 17, which is midway through, and then which is the end of verse 17, and then midway through verse 9. It's not even the beginning of verse 9. He's literally left out 12 chapters of 1 Chronicles, and then jumped 9 chapters of 2nd Ezra's. How he made this mistake is unbelievable. But that is what the scribe did. And this is from the best manuscripts that we have. Or one of the best manuscripts that we have. This is meant to be one of the best preserved manuscripts. But clearly not. Right, Luke 22:43, and there appeared an angel unto him from heaven, strengthening him. So this is obviously in the Garden of Gethsemane. And being in agony, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat were great drops of blood falling down to the ground. Vaticanus omits both of those verses. Now, Sinaiticus contains the words, but then they were omitted by a corrector, so they were then corrected as taken out. But then another scribe has added them back in again, so another corrector. So they were originally in Sinaiticus, then they were taken out, then they were put back in. So you have two correctors, and two different correctors have done that. But they are those words not in Vaticanus. So if you are using those words in your Bible, know that they are not in Vaticanus, which is considered probably the best manuscript, best and oldest manuscript that we have. Those words are not there. Luke 23:34. Then said Jesus, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Again, these are really famous words of Jesus, and they parted his raiment and cast lots. The words, then said Jesus, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, are not found in Vaticanus. They're not there. They are not contained in Vaticanus. They are found in Sinaiticus original, and then the second correction, they're put back. So they're taken out, put back in again in the second correction. They're found in A, C, D correction, and just many more. The verse was originally in the Sinaitic manuscript, but then it was removed and then it was put back in again. They are included in the Westcott and Hort text. They're included in the NASB, the UBS text and the NA text. But they are in brackets in the Net Bible. Now, there's a very strange reading, which is clearly incorrect, but this reading has Jesus uttering words after he's dead on the cross. And this comes in Matthew 27:49. The rest said, Let us see whether Elias will come to save him. Jesus, when he had cried again with a loud voice, yielded up the ghost. However, both Sinaiticus and Vaticanus, both of these manuscripts, include the words, and another took a spear and pierced his side, and there came out water and blood, after verse 49. So we have verse 49, the rest said, let us see whether Elias will come to save him. Then Vaticanus and Sinaiticus read, and another took a spear and pierced his side, and there came out water and blood. Then we have Jesus, when he had cried again with a loud voice, yielded up the ghost. So we have Jesus dying after the spear has been after he has been pierced by the spear. But this obviously creates contradiction with the Gospel of John, because the Gospel of John states that he was already dead when the spear was thrust into his side in John 19:30. When Jesus therefore had received, and I'll quickly try and just bring this up onto screen. Where is it? No, not that one. That one there. So it's So I'll share there. So it's here. When Jesus therefore had received the vinegar, he said, "It is finished," and bowed his head, and he gave up the ghost. The Jews therefore came, because it was the preparation that the bodies should not remain upon the cross on the Sabbath day, for the Sabbath day was an high day, besought Pilate that their legs might be broken, and that they might be taken away. Then came the soldiers, and brake the legs of the first, and the other which was crucified with him. And when they came to Jesus and saw that he was dead already, they broke not his legs, but one of the soldiers with a spear pierced his side, and forthwith came there out blood and water. So in the Gospel of John, we have that Jesus died, and then they pierced his body with and then the blood and water came out of his side. But in Sinaiticus and Vaticanus, they have effectively made Jesus being pierced by the spear the cause of his death. So he wasn't already dead when he was pierced. And this is not the reading found in the vast majority of manuscripts. It's not the reading found in the vast majority of Bibles, and it obviously creates a contradiction. Somebody has added, in my contention, somebody has added these words to Vaticanus or Sinaiticus, or the exemplar that these were copied from, in order to try and make something that they couldn't understand. They've tried to add this in order to make passages and verses match, and they've incorrectly done it. It could very well be that they've just copied it from their exemplar and somebody else has done that, but somebody has added these words which quite clearly are in error, and they don't belong in those verses. So if you've watched the study, or you know of my study, or you know of other people's studies, because I'm not the only one that has done the longer ending of Mark. There are plenty of people out there that have argued for the longer ending Mark, but if you are aware of that, you'll know that the longer ending of Mark is brought into doubt because of Vaticanus and Sinaiticus. And what we have there is Vaticanus and Sinaiticus adding a verse that is not utilized. And you have to then say, well, if you have to be consistent. If you're going to accept these, or you're going to reject verses because they're not found in these two best and ancient manuscripts, why are you not utilizing the readings that are found within them when they don't match these the other readings? Why are they not? Because we have 1,600 manuscripts that attest to just in Greek alone, that attest to the longer ending of Mark, yet they're still brought into doubt because of these two manuscripts. So regardless, if you're going to use that, regardless of how much other manuscript that we have for Matthew and these extra words, surely you must say, well, regardless of the manuscript evidence, these words must belong. But they clearly don't. But you have to be consistent. So let's also, lastly, I'm just going to go with another verse that is kind of omitted, or verses that are omitted by Vaticanus and Sinaiticus. I could go into where Vaticanus, plenty more where Vaticanus reads and Sinaiticus admits, or Vaticanus omits something and Sinaiticus includes it, where Alexandrinus matches both of them, or one of them, and there's just so many conflicting readings between these two manuscripts. And then if you throw Alexandrinus into the mix, you're getting just so many random readings. So I'll just do Matthew 16:2, and then that's basically 55 minutes onto an hour, and then we can, if anybody wants to come on and discuss this or discuss something else, feel free to do so. So Matthew 16:2 and 3. He answered and said unto them, when it is evening, ye say, it will be fair weather, for the sky is red, and in the morning it will be foul weather today, for the sky is red and lowering. O ye hypocrites, you can discern the face of the sky, but can ye not discern the signs of the times? Now, I'm sure that most people are aware of these words of Jesus, and you can... many people learn the words of Jesus, and they can kind of repeat them. I know a few people that actually have kind of memorized the whole, all of Jesus's speech, and they can tell you what Jesus said, and they can basically quote Jesus. Now, those words, apart from, he answered and said unto them, all the words of Jesus, then, when it is evening, ye say, and onwards, all the way through there, Vaticanus and Sinaiticus do not contain those words. All they have is, he answered and said unto them. And then nothing. There is no words that they say. They completely omit the rest of verse 16:2 and 16:3. They're all gone. They're not there. It's not that these manuscripts are damaged in these places. They're just not there. They don't include the words. Obviously, we have damaged manuscripts, and Vaticanus and Sinaiticus are not complete manuscripts. They do contain portions that are not found because they're damaged and they're not there. But we're not talking about the damaged parts of the manuscripts. These are omitted. They are not included in the manuscript. They weren't included in the original. So when it comes to Revelation, we don't know what Vaticanus reads, not because they're not found in in Revelation, but because Revelation is not in the manuscript, is not there. It doesn't contain, Vaticanus doesn't contain the book. Excuse me. So we can't tell what that reading is. So yeah, I'm going to finish there. That's coming up to an hour. I think that's kind of enough to be able to give some kind of representation of what these two oldest and best manuscripts are like, and how modern versions seem to kind of, and the critical texts are kind of picking and choosing when they're going to say, well, yes, these oldest and best manuscripts, and we must follow them because they are the best and oldest manuscripts, despite them fighting against the majority of other manuscripts. But then they're going, well, okay, well, we're going to reject the reading of these two manuscripts as well, despite the fact that these two manuscripts either omit or add these words, or so it just seems, to me at least, it seems very inconsistent, and that's one of the reasons why I'm not so why I don't believe in these modern textual criticism and follow the modern Bibles. Anyway, that's as far as I'm going to go on that. Again, thank you very much for listening, and we'll jump into some of the comments and see if anybody would like to come on and discuss. What I need to do is invite, as I normally have to do, copy that, and then find there. I'm curious as to what the point of the stream is. The point of the stream is to look into the readings of Sinaiticus and Vaticanus. That is the point, to show the discrepancies in the that are in these two manuscripts. If you've been following along in my other videos, I've been looking into the readings of some of the more well-known textual criticism. So obviously the ending of Mark, the longer ending of Mark, we've done 1 John 5:7, looking into the evidence for and against that, and now I did a little bit in my last open themed discussion, where just I had pure open discussion. We did Genesis 1:1. So we looked at the variant, or in the English there at least. And yeah, I'm just going through looking at the modern textual criticism and comparing it against the Textus Receptus, the King James version, and just offering my opinion on that and looking for other people's opinion on it, and discussing the variants. And in this particular stream, this one is basically just to look at and show the errors or the discrepancies, particular readings, if you want to say, of these two manuscripts, Vaticanus and Sinaiticus. So that is the point of the stream. Okay, I'll just quickly, this one, Dennis is back. Excuse me. Hello, Dennis. Welcome back again. With the 144,000, is it only in chapter 7 of Revelation where it says something else? In chapter 14, it says again 144,000. No, in both of those. So in Revelation 7, it reads 140,000, 140,000, and in Revelation 14, it reads 141,000 in Sinaiticus. So, as I stated earlier on, that contradicts itself. Sinaiticus doesn't even read the same in both of those verses. So, one is 140,000 and one is 141,000. So, yeah, in both of those, it changes in both, reads different. How about if you say it 3 times instead of 8 times? I don't know what you mean by that. Obviously, holy, holy, holy is the 3 times that it should be read, but Sinaiticus has that 8-fold possible octo echo. I suppose if you said that you repeated, if each holy was meant to represent one holy, it would then have 9. So I'm not really, sorry, Michael, I'm not 100% sure what that comment means, but if you want to clarify what you mean by that, I'm happy to engage with that. Okay, yeah, so if if anybody wants to come on, feel free to do so. Otherwise, I'm probably going to discuss another variant. I have another one that I kind of had on the back burner. Sorry, let's hide that, so that just in case anybody, just in case I didn't get anybody to come on. So I'm happy to go through another textual variant that is probably a a not so known textual variant, again, as we did in the last one with Genesis 1:1. This one is in Genesis 4:8, and I'm happy to go through that if you would like me to go through that one. If you stay about. I was expecting to at least go for possibly 2 hours tonight, so the Genesis 4:8 probably would take on another 20-30 minutes or so. So I'm happy to look at that one, but also happy if somebody wants to come on, or if there's any comments, and if there isn't, I will crack on with this variant. And if people want to hang about, then feel free to do so. And if you'd rather not listen to another textual variant, then thank you very much for listening to the points, what up to this point at least. And hopefully you'll come and engage with me again on another one and listen. As always, I really do appreciate all the people that come into the and watch live, but then obviously all of those that do watch my videos not live. I understand that I am in the UK, and the vast majority of the vast majority of people that do follow along in my my videos and do watch them are actually from the United States, and so the time difference is there. So very strange what you said about Revelation 14. I had to look up that website. So the I will basically, what I'm going to do now, I'll post into, I'm presuming, Dennis, you have found the website, but what I'll do is I will post the so if I go home there, so because Codex Sinaiticus, we'll post that into the, so this is the website for Codex Sinaiticus, which I've just posted into the comments, so it's there. That's the website. So everything that I've stated tonight, feel free to go and check. Don't just take my word for it. Feel free to go and have a look at what Sinaiticus states. Obviously, Sinaiticus is in Greek, so you may need a lexicon in order to be able to read those, unless obviously you do read Greek. But yeah, if you want to go to and check what I've stated, just for fairness as well, what I will do, I'm sure that people are more than aware of all of these websites, but this is as again, there you go, that posted into the comments. This is Vaticanus, so that's the website for Vaticanus, the manuscript. It's all online. So there you go. That's the Vaticanus website. So you can obviously make that bigger or smaller. And I want. So I need to scroll in there, but I don't think that that's showing. Why is that not working? Why is the scrolling not working on the page? Sorry about this. I can't seem to get that to work. Right. Sorry. I need to be on that page. There you go. So yeah, so this is Vaticanus website, and down the bottom you can read the pages, and you can scroll along, and you can flip through. It's not as easy to navigate as the Sinaiticus page, which if I go back into there, yeah. So if I share that one, so Codex Sinaiticus, this one is a lot easier to scroll through. You just go to the book, and so. But as you can see, like in Sinaiticus, so all the books there. So obviously we've got Genesis, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, First Chronicles, Second Chronicles. But then you have Tobit, the Maccabees, the Wisdom of Solomon, Joshua, and Sirach. Obviously there are others, but these are all included, which are not scripture or not considered as scripture by a lot of people. Then you've got Barnabas, the Shepherd of Hermes, and unidentified fragments. So Sinaiticus contains a lot of books there that would be considered non-canonical, but they're in Sinaiticus. Okay, so yeah, so obviously you can go in and have a look at all of that as well. Yeah, so I'm basically just going to quickly run through another textual variant. I don't know how long this is going to take me, but if you want to stay around and follow along, again, it isn't a major textual variant. It is not that well known, but it is a textual variant nonetheless. And again, I think that the reading found in the KJV is correct. We'll look at the evidence, and you can make up your own mind which reading is more correct. So Genesis 4:8. So what I will do again, but this time I'm going to bring up the Genesis 4:8. And if I share my screen with Genesis 4:8, so that we can see here, and it states, "And Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him." Now, if you have a look at the NIV, it says, "Let's go out to the field." So this wording, "let's go out to the field," is added in some Bibles, in some manuscripts, and whereas the KJV, it doesn't read that. So there is a difference between readings. Let's go out to the field. It's kind of what it's offering here is a reason that Cain and Abel were in the field, basically. So now we know that when Cain kills Abel, they're in the field, and Cain kills Abel, but they're just in the field. So we don't have any pretext to them going out into the field. And so what the NIV has there is Abel saying to his brother, let's go out to the field. And then it is when they're in the field that Cain attacks him, which is how the NIV reads. But are those words part of Scripture? And this may not be a major variant, but the kind of reason I bring this up is to show the inconsistency and why I don't trust the modern versions of the Bible, and why I think that those modern versions are incorrect. So when it comes to the modern versions, the versions that don't include it would be the ESV, NASB, ASV. So there are versions that don't include these words, modern versions that don't include these extra words, and they would follow along as in the reading, such as in the KJV. But then you have versions such as the NIV that do, such as the Net Bible and the NRSV. The NLT has it, but it uses the plural fields for some reason. Let's go out to the fields. The CEV states, Cain said to his let in the field, Cain attacked, and no manuscript. It's simply made up. But obviously what they're wanting to do is change the reading. I don't know if you understand the whole concept of that, the copyright thing, where they have to have a certain amount of differences within a reading to be able to basically constitute a new version of the Bible, or a new edition, new version. So things have to be changed slightly, and there has to be certain differences, and that's all about money. So basically anybody can create their own Bible, but you can't just simply copy the NIV for instance, because that's copywritten. So you have to have a certain amount of changes within the text. So they've come up with let's go for a walk. Some versions have it in brackets, let's go into the field, and they have it in brackets, obviously bringing into doubt. So the words, are they Scripture, are they not Scripture? Depends on what Bible version you are using. If you use it in the ESV, then the words are not included. If you use an NIV, they are. So it depends on what version you are using, those words are or are not. And some people may not think that it's important, and that's fine. But I'm only looking at the variants. Whether they're important or not is another thing. So in an online debate on the KJV, or the issue of the KJV, is the KJV superior to modern versions? Rob Rowe, who I actually debated long time ago, and Nick Sayers. So Nick Sayers and Rob Rowe had a debate. Rob makes the claim, or he made the claim, that the Masorete who produced the Masoretic text, at this point, he skipped a line. So basically, he skipped the wording, let's go into the field. He claims that it should read as the ISV, which includes the words, and he states in that debate, it should read as the ISV puts it eloquently, because the Dead Sea Scrolls gives the fuller reading here. So he basically states that the ISV reading is correct with those, because I think he uses the ISV, or he must do. And he states it because the Dead Sea Scrolls gives the fuller reading here. And so he's saying that this reading is found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So Rob asserts that the words, when they were in the field, as the ISV, are the fuller reading, or let's go into the field reading. It's the fuller reading, and that's around 34 minutes of his video and of that debate. I am going to post the debate just in case anybody wants to view that debate. So I'll post that into the so you can. Oh, sorry, that's the scroll, the Dead Sea Scroll. I've got the link to the debate. That scroll there is the Dead Sea Scroll that is being referred to. So you can have a look at that link. Go and have a look at the link. I've copied the wrong thing. That's the link to the Dead Sea Scroll. Those words are not found in that Dead Sea Scroll. So anybody asserting, like Rob, stating that the Dead Sea Scroll gives the fuller reading, it's the scroll number 4QT Genesis B, and you go and have a look at it. Those words are not found in that manuscript. They're not found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's a complete lie to state that. So he is either mistaken or he's deliberately misrepresenting the reading of the scroll, but he is wrong. The words, when they were in the field, in the Hebrew, are not found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. In fact, it should also be further highlighted that the text of the scroll is almost identical to the Masoretic text. The skipping a line, as Rob asserts, by the scribe is also the postulation of Dan Wallace. So I wonder where Rob is getting that information from. He's got it from Dan Wallace, basically. He's basically just regurgitated what Dan Wallace has stated. The textual note found in the Net Bible, and it states, likely Genesis 4:8 originally included two consecutive clauses that end with the expression into the field. And the Hebrew there is bazadah. It is most likely that the scribe's eye skipped over the earlier expression ending with the expression into the field to the same word in the second instance, therefore accidentally omitting the quotation. So at around the 32-minute mark, and I will post a link to this debate, around the 32-minute 50-second mark, Rob also states, I jump between the ISV and the ESV. But what we'll see is that, or what we have seen, if you look at the ESV and the ISV, they don't read the same. One includes and one excludes. So at the same point, Rob is demonstrating that the words are meant to be scripture. He accidentally goes to the ESV where they are not found. And then he has to open the ISV instead in order to support the claim. Thus, Rob is actually demonstrating that the authority of the words, even for him during the debate, depend on which preferred version that he is using at that particular time to support his claim. He's actually got to pick and choose, cherry pick which Bible he's going to use in order to support the claim that he wants to support, because he's using both and they don't align with one another. As Rob proceeded to demonstrate the authority of the words, he further stated, because the ISV is a newer translation than the ESV, which he had just mistakenly used. So Rob's own argument here simply defeats itself. The basis on which Rob asserts the words were authentic was that the words were included in the Dead Sea Scrolls. While that assertion is false, the point it becomes moot, or it is moot anyway. While the KJV translators in 1611 did not have access to the reading of the Dead Sea Scrolls, as they had not yet been discovered, the translator of the ESV did. The translators at ESV did have access to that reading in the Dead Sea Scrolls. The ESV was translated in 2001. So it is irrelevant as to whether or not the ISV is newer than the ESV, because no new evidence had been found. The evidence for the reading found in the ISV and the ESV are exactly the same evidence. So you can't say, well, it's a newer version. Well, yeah, it might be newer because there's a more modern translation, but it's based on the same evidence. There wasn't any extra evidence discovered. Whereas you could say that with the ESV and ISV in comparison to the King James Bible, but you can't say that between the two versions that you're cherry picking. So what is considered scripture is dependent on which modern version of the Bible Rob is using. Rob could just as well have used his own preferred Bible version, the ESV, to argue that the words were not authentic and that they're not part of scripture. And so this is nothing new for those that use modern versions. They simply flip between what version, or what I've come across anyway. They will post when we're debating, they'll post a verse in one particular Bible, and then they'll post it in another Bible, because they pick and choose which Bible says what they want to say in the way that they want to say it, and which ones include things and which ones don't. Whereas kind of I stick to that one Bible. Here is the link to the debate. I just posted that one as well. So if you want to watch the debate, you can do that. I can say Nick Sayers is a very, very good defender of the KJV. He has his own website, textusreceptus.com. You can have a look at his website there. He has lots of writings. I've got his book here as well. So he's very good with that. And Rob basically just regurgitates something that he read in a footnote. And that's his argument. He hasn't actually studied the footnote. He hasn't actually studied the Dead Sea Scrolls. He's just regurgitating information that he's read. And that's just not the way to properly do study. And with all of what I post you, click the links, go to Sinaiticus, go to Vaticanus, go to the Dead Sea Scrolls, have a look, check what I'm saying, check whether the words are there, check whether, well, I showed you in Sinaiticus the eightfold holy, 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 just I'm saying check everything that I say. It's vitally important that you check. You don't just take what I say. Otherwise, if I get something wrong, you're just going to parrot what I say, and you're going to be as wrong as me. Just as other people are just as wrong as Dan Wallace, and just as wrong as Metzger in certain passages, which we've already seen in many times in other videos. If you just parrot what the scholar is stating, you're going to get things wrong, especially as we've seen where Metzger even retracts his own statements when he's shown wrong himself. And if you just state the initial comment by Metzger and not the retraction of what he stated, you're always going to be wrong. The words that are found in the NIV and ISV are also found in the LXX as well, the Greek Septuagint, which we're going to be looking at in the future. And Cain said to his Abel, "Let us go into the plain." And it came to pass, when they were in the plain, Cain rose up against Abel, his brother, and slew him. Brenton Septuagint. Now, the words are also found in the Samaritan Pentateuch, the Latin Vulgate, and the Syriac Peshitta. The Samaritan Pentateuch is, in fact, the only Hebrew witness to those words. Now, it may be that even the Peshitta, which includes the words, is not, in fact, evidence for the inclusion of the words after all. Ukasuto claimed in a commentary on the book of Genesis that the Peshitta has the reading, "Let us go into the open country." And you can find that in, I'll put a link to that. Rather than me reading it out, I'll put a link to that as well. So you can find where that is. So it says, "Let us go out into the open country." But that is actually incorrect. The Peshitta actually reads, "Let us travel to the valley." Now, the fact actually demonstrates that the reading of the Syriac has not come from the Hebrew, but it is come from the Greek. So it is possible that the reading found in the Peshitta has not come from the Hebrew itself. It has actually come into that reading from the Greek. Now, while the Greek means plain, the Syriac translator has mistranslated the Greek as valley. So it would seem that the translator has used the Greek rather than the Hebrew. If the translator was using the Hebrew and the Hebrew had read as it does there, and I don't know the Hebrew there, so I'm not. So I can't read the Hebrew, but if I share the screen, you can, you should be able to see there, that's the Hebrew, and that they would have used the Syriac, they would have used a different Syriac word, which is the word for field, just as they did later on in the same verse when we find the word field again. So they used that Syriac word, but they didn't use that one in the previous occasion. So it doesn't look like that it's come from the Hebrew. It's actually come from the Greek. When it comes to the reading of the LXX, we actually get into even more issues with the modern versions. Notice that Brenton's Septuagint includes the words, "and it came to pass." If I can, so if I go back and show you that, there you go. And Cain said unto his brother, "Let us go into the plain, and it came to pass that when they were in the field, in the plain, Cain rose up." We actually get so the NIV, which includes the words "let us go into the field," now omits the words "and it came to pass." This is translated from the Hebrew, which means like to become, to come to pass, to happen. Now, neither of Rob's preferred versions include the words either. So ESV and ISV they're not included. And Rob does not make any reference to these words or the lack of. He makes no mention of these words. So whereas preferred version include the words that are found in the LXX, they also exclude words that are found in the LXX in the same verse. The words "and it came to pass" are also included in a version such as the LSV, which it has let's go out to the field in brackets, although it translates it as it comes to pass. And those words are not bracketed. So it's got "let us go into the field" bracketed, and then so this is the LSV version, and I don't really know. I'm not really too sure. It's not a version that I'm too familiar with, but it's completely messed up. But it's got the complete Septuagint reading there. The New Heart English Bible also has the words included, "let's go out to the field," and it also includes "and it came to pass," although it has created its own translation of the Hebrew, and it just states "it happened." And so some of these versions, the New Heart version, the LSV, they're very strange readings. But again, I think that this comes to the fact that a lot of these ones have to change words in order to be able to release a new version, in order to not be done on copyright and stuff. But what's more, if we look at verse 7 in Brenton Septuagint, we find that it reads, "Hast thou not sinned if thou hast brought it rightly, but not rightly divided it?" Now that reading, just one verse before the verse in question, so that's verse 7 instead of, we've been looking at verse 8. Now that reading is not adopted by any of the modern versions. So that Septuagint reading is not adopted by the ESV or ISV or the NIV. So the readings of the Septuagint that are accepted or rejected as scripture will depend on what version you happen to be reading at the time, and where they've decided that they're going to accept the reading of the LXX and where they don't. And we're going to look a lot more in depth into the readings of some of the LXX readings, and why I don't actually believe that Jesus quoted from the LXX, because I don't actually believe that the LXX was a thing at the time of Jesus, and I don't actually believe in an LXX, and we'll get into the readings of that and the arguments and why I don't believe that in another video. So it is also asserted that the Hebrew text itself supports the inclusion of the extra words "let's go out to the field," and this is based on the Hebrew word "wayomer," which is in the construct of the Hebrew verb "amar," to say. While the KJV translates this as "talked," it is asserted that if this is rendered as "said," Cain said to his brother instead of "talked," then this would require the inclusion of the words that Cain had then said in order to be grammatically correct. And thus the Hebrew demands that the words that Cain had said, namely, "let's go out to the field," must then be original. However, that's not correct. The inclusion of what was said would only be required if the use of the verb "amar" was always followed by what was said. But that isn't the case. Although it is correct that it would usually be followed by what is said or had been said, there are occasions when the verb is not followed by what is then said. And we can see two examples of those in Job 8:10. "Shall not thy teach thee and tell thee and utter words out of their heart?" The words of what would be told, what is being stated there, they don't follow the verb. Then, so "tell" is the translation in the in the NIV, will they not instruct you and tell you? ? Will they not bring forth words from their understanding? Well, what was being told is not then stated. So there's an occasion there where the words are not included. And we can also see another example in Jonah 2:10, where the Lord spoke to the whale. And the Lord spake unto the fish, and it vomited out Jonah upon the dry land. Well, what did God say to the fish? The words are not then stated. And we find no inclusions of the words that the Lord spoke following the verb. The ESV and ISV rendered the verb spoke, and they don't include the words there. But we can also, just one more example, in Exodus 19:25. In this verse, we are told that Moses, after speaking with God, went down and spake to them, the Israelites. Exodus 19:25. So Moses went down unto the people and spake unto them. So we again have the Hebrew verb, but there is no continuation of the text with the words that Moses had spoke. The context of the verse indicates as to what Moses had said to the people, what God had said to him. So what is important to note here is that there are no extra words in this verse that are found in the Septuagint, Vulgate, Samaritan Pentateuch, nor in the Syrian text. Again, demonstrating that the words that are they're not specifically required in Genesis 4:8 to make it grammatically correct. And actually, I've got another example in 2 Chronicles 1:2, where we find that Solomon spake unto Israel without the inclusions of what the words that he spoke. Then Solomon spake unto all Israel, to all the captains of thousands and of hundreds, and to the judges, and to every governor in Israel, the chief of the fathers. And that's it. We don't have anything that was actually spoke. So we can see that the verb amar does not demand the inclusion of what was said. The argument is not correct. Well, there are times when following that verb, what is said is stated. There are many times when it's not, and it is not demanded that it be. We also have examples of where the verb amar is used within the text, but then a secondary clause is used after the verb to specify, to specifically refer to what was being said. So like in Genesis 9:8, and God spake unto Noah and to his sons with him, saying. So we have a double usage there. So we have the two sayings there. So God spake unto Noah, which is amar, way amar, but then and to his sons saying. So we have another usage, but this clause, this second clause, is the Hebrew lemor, which is another construct of amar. So we have kind of that verb amar being used twice in the same verse. So what God spake is found after the second verb, the second usage. So there are two clauses that are required in that verse. The first clause is not followed by what is stated. The second clause is. And so the double usage of that verb is also found elsewhere. And that's found in Genesis 21:22, where we have, it came to pass at that time that Abimelech and Phicol, the chief captain of his host, spake unto Abraham, saying, God is with thee, all that thou doest. So there's the double usage there. So the first clause stands alone. It is a complete clause. While it is actually spoken is dependent upon the second clause, which is itself is another standalone clause. The two clauses complete the text. One states that someone spoke, and then the second details what was actually spoken. And we have another perfect example in Exodus 1:15 and 16. Exodus 1:15, and the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah. Here the king of Egypt spoke, and we are told to whom he spoke, using the Hebrew we'omar, or amar, the verb. And it is in the next verse we are told what he actually spake. And then it states, and he said, and then it's what he stated. And it is the second clause of we'omar that then indicates what is stated. So these examples just disprove the claim that the verb amar must be followed by the recording of what is said. And it is also possible that we do not need the words of king, because the context would indicate what was said. And basically, now I could go into a bit more detail. So if we go back to verse 19 of Exodus 19:24, and we look at the verse, and the Lord said unto him, away, get thee down, and thou shalt come. So this is basically back to when Moses spoke. And the Lord said unto him, away, get thee down, and thou shalt come up, thou and Aaron with thee. But let not the priests and the people break through to come up unto the Lord, lest he break forth upon them. So Moses went down unto the people, and he spake unto them. So what we can see, what Moses spoke was in the precursor to that, in the previous verse, and stated, and it doesn't come afterwards. And so when we look at the context of Genesis 4:8, we do not need the words king spoke unto Abel, let us go out into the field, because it is going into the field, and the text tells us what comes to pass. And Cain talked with Abel, his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up. So it's something that has happened. It's already, so the text is telling us what has happened. So both, I've got written in my notes that both Targum Pseudo-Jonathan and Jerusalem Targum include the words. However, we should not put too much weight on the Targums for the inclusion. The Targums themselves are a commentary. They're not the Bible words. They are a commentary on the biblical words. So the Targums actually add a whole conversation between the two brothers at this point. So the Targum Jonathan states, Cain answered and said unto Abel, I perceive that the world was created in goodness, but it is not governed or conducted according to the fruit of good works, for there is respect to persons in judgment. Therefore it is that thy offering was accepted, and mine not accepted with good will. Abel answered and said to Cain, in goodness was the world created, and according to the fruit of good works it is governed, and there is no respect of persons in judgment. But because the fruits of my works were better than thine, by oblation before thine hath been accepted with good will. Cain answered and said to Abel, there is neither judgment nor judge, nor another world, nor will good reward be given to the righteous, nor vengeance be taken of the wicked. And Abel answered and said unto Cain, there is a judgment, and there is a judge, and there is another world, and a good reward given to the righteous, and vengeance taken of the wicked. This is that's Targum Jonathan on Genesis 4:8. All of those words are included in that Targum. So basically, What that is good night, Dennis. Thank you very much for being for watching along. I do appreciate it. So basically, what all of those words are is their commentary. We don't have the words of that conversation between Cain and Abel. So this is somebody adding what Cain and Abel said to each other. Why was Cain's his offering to God not accepted, but Abel's was accepted? This is somebody's commentary. Yeah, it possibly could be. The serpent seed doctrine, which I might do one day. Actually, I've got a writing on it, and I might do a video of that serpent seed, which is becoming really, really popular at the moment. That's the serpent seed doctrine, which says that basically Satan is the father of Cain. It's actually really, really growing at the moment, and there's a lot of Christians out there that are accepting that as fact, basically, that there were basically fraternal twins. Abel was the son of Adam, but Cain was the son of Satan, and eating of the tree and stuff is just euphemism for sex. So when Eve eats of the tree, she's actually participating in sex with Satan, basically. So that is something I will go into. But the Targums are just commentary. They are somebody's commentary. So those words that are included in the comment in let us go out into the field are added, but that isn't. They're not part of what the Targum is saying is text. They're part of what is the Targum is adding, as in the reason why Cain killed Abel, and it's just adding, because obviously we don't get all the information in the Bible, and then we get Targums and we get extra biblical writings like the Book of Enoch. We don't have what these Nephilim, the giants, are so much in the Bible. It's not really explained, although it is. It's just it's not in any massive detail. And so somebody has come along and looked at Genesis 6:4 and about the sons of God meeting with the daughters of men, and created this whole book, the Book of Enoch, to basically explain all of that. And it's basically somebody's own personal creation to try and explain what they don't feel is in the text. So yeah, this is that's the Jerusalem Targum also adds a load of extra text which explains the basically that as well. So rather than the scribes skipping over a line as asserted by Rob Rowe and Dan Wallace, yeah, neither do I. I've got writings on that, the whole angels having sex with women and producing, as I stated in my previous video, if you've seen that, the Book of Enoch talks about the 450 feet offspring, basically, of these angels and women. And this is where kind of in Greek mythology you get these titans, these huge kind of god creatures. If you've ever watched the film The Gods of Egypt, the gods are these huge creatures. So this is just mythology. The Book of Enoch is just basically mythology mixed with biblical stories to try and expound on what they kind of felt wasn't included in the Bible, and then they've had to use Greek myth or Roman mythology or just Egyptian mythology in order to try and create this story. So based on the evidence, I think that rather than the scribes skipping over the line, and I probably haven't explained it all too well. I know, and I do apologize about that. But rather than that, my contention would be that somebody is basically added this in order that line in order to try and just give an explanation of why they went out into the field, rather than so I think that along with the Targums, I think that what that shows is that somebody has added to the text rather than taking it away. That's basically that verse. There is a fair amount of evidence for the wordings, but I don't think that they've been is fairly accurately represented, because those basically it comes from the Dead Sea Scrolls, and they're not in the Dead Sea Scrolls, so it actually comes from the LXX, and we'll look into the LXX thing at another time, and why I don't think that the New Testament quotes the LXX, and why the LXX wasn't even a thing back then. And I think that the LXX, and we have to remember the LXX is a specific translation. I'm not saying that there weren't Greek translations. I'm saying that there wasn't an LXX, and that's a totally different thing. And I will get into that. Okay, so yeah, this one has been going on for 2 hours now. So if anybody would, again, I'm going to say, if anybody would like to come on and chat, feel free to do so. Feel free to put comments into the comment section, and I'll engage with those. If not, I'll call it a day, because I think I've presented what I wanted to present. I've done basically the readings of Sinaiticus. I will. I don't know if you can see the link to. Not sure if that stays at the top, or whether I have to post it again. But I will post again just in case. That's the link to come on. If you would like to come on, feel free. I appreciate all the comments that have come into the stream so far. I think I've engaged with most of them, if not all. But yeah, if you disagree, if you want to push back on anything that I've basically stated on about Sinaiticus and Vaticanus, if you've got other information that I may not have presented, either for or against the manuscripts, always looking to update studies. I'm always studying, so if I I do a lot of work. I spend a lot of time doing this, and I'm constantly updating, like, write my work, my writings that I do. So I might find just one small piece of information of writing that I've already done, and I will add it to my writing. So they're never stagnant. If I find something, that it goes into the writing. So I'm constantly writing. I'm constantly having to study to do new writings. And so while I'm doing that, sometimes it will bring up a new piece of information that I wasn't aware of. And I will then go back into my previous writings to either amend something I've stated which was incorrect. I've got to be honest, it's not that it hasn't ever happened, but something that I've stated that is incorrect is rare for me to take something out. Normally, I am adding more examples, more information to the website, to the writings that I do. I've got more. So I've my book, which I don't even know where my own book is. Which says something about that my order of my books. There. So this book that I wrote nearly 2 years ago now. So this is the Holy Bible versus the Hebrew Israelites. So there are there are 232 pages of that book. I have written since then. Not only have I updated some of the, so in this book, basically what I do is I'm going through the verses that the Hebrew Israelites use to prove that they are the true Jews or the true Israelites, and that the Jewish people are actually that we call Jews nowadays are not the true Jews. They are basically they are converts to Judaism, and that the true Jewish people are the black African American people that were taken from Israel, from Africa to America as part of the Ashkenazi, the Ashkenazi. So it's not Khazarians, although there probably are going to be some of those as well, but it's more the Ashkenazi Jews that. So basically, the argument is that they're not the real Jews. Now, I've written, like I say, 232 pages against that, and the verses that they use to prove that. But since I've written that 2 years ago, not only have I updated each individual verse and added more information, because as I deal with the arguments that I'm given, I add to those. I am also given new arguments by the Hebrew Israelites, and I really would like to update the version, the book, because I could probably get that up to over or close on 300 pages, because there are lots of more writings that I've done. What about the British Israelites? I would take it that if the British Israelites are calling themselves Hebrew Israelites, but they're British, they would classify themselves as the same as the Americans. If they're saying that they were brought to Britain as part of the transatlantic slave trade, then they would and there are black Israelites in Britain that are claiming that they are part of the of that true. They are part of the true Israelite people. They if they were brought there, then yeah, they would be part of that as well, that movement. So the Hebrew Israelites, there's different groups. So some say that think they claim they are the lost no. So the black. So there are there are different groups, depending on which group you're talking to. So there's the IUIC, there's the and there's many groups or camps, as they call them, that call themselves. So they think that they claim they are the lost 10 tribes. The black African Americans claim that they are Judah. And so again, like I say, it depends on which group you're dealing with, but some will say that all 12 tribes are the black African Americans, obviously those that were taken in the transatlantic slave trade. But then you have other groups that will include Hispanics, the Native Americans, Inuits, I think even the Aboriginal people in Australia. I'm not sure of that, but certainly. Okay, so was referring to the British version. Yeah, maybe they do. Maybe they don't call themselves Judah. I don't know, but certainly the ones in America that would say that they are Hebrew Israelites will say that they are Judah. They are the tribe of Judah. But and like they have a 12 tribe chart as well. So there's so that, like say, the Hispanics and the Native Americans, these are different tribes. So these are different. So they're, tribe of Dan and the tribe of Ephraim and all these different tribes. And that, yeah, they basically, that's what they argue, and they say that the true Israelites are black. Jesus was black, and that's the arguments that they put through. Some of them will say that, or most of them say that the white man is Esau. Esau can't be saved, and some say that the white man will be slaves in the kingdom of heaven to the true Israelites, and some say that white people cannot be saved at all, and we will all be destroyed at the second coming of Jesus. That is very much a movement that is growing in popularity in America at the moment, I would say, amongst obviously the black African American. They don't like that terminology. I get confused on whether people in America whether they are called black African American, whether you can use that or not, so, because obviously terminology and racism and stuff, so that changes. So apologies if I've offended anybody by using terminology that I shouldn't use, but that is the terminology that I know anyway. So yeah, it is racist, but then they would also argue that it's white people that are racist and that actually have put them into slavery, and then took away their heritage, gave them like all these false American or non-Hebrew names, and they call themselves now, like they'll use Hebrew names for themselves, and a lot of them call themselves Ben Israel, so they're saying son of Israel, and then they'll use some Hebrew name, Nathaniel. Nathaniel is he's one of the main leaders of the IUIC. Make some outrageous claims, which I've written against. But yeah, it's that group is. But yeah, so where I was going with that is that basically I'm constantly trying to study, trying to look at things. When somebody, like, I really enjoy when somebody gives me pushback with something that I've stated, because it means that I then need to go, well, unless they just say, well, you're wrong, which happens all the time, and they just say, well, you're wrong. Well, okay, you haven't given me any reason why I'm wrong. I've studied the subject and you've just said I'm wrong. That's not really a pushback, that's just a statement, because you didn't agree. But now and again, I will I do come across people that are studied themselves, and they will push me back, and they will say something that, like, will make me. In fact, actually, somebody in the chat today was talking about 1 John 5:7, and he gave me 9 points against John 1:5, my argument for 1 John 5:7. So he's given me 9 points of why he thinks that I'm incorrect on those. Now, that is a worthwhile rebuttal, and I'm more than happy for somebody to do that. In fact, I love it when somebody says, right, okay, I think you're wrong. Here's why I think you're wrong. Because now what I need to do is I need to go through those 9 points and look at those 9 points and see which ones are correct and which ones are incorrect. And if there's something that is I've stated that can be factually shown to be incorrect, then I'll change what I stated. I don't believe that. I've had a quick look at the 9 points, and I don't think that there's anything in them that actually proves that I've said something wrong. But I will go through them and I will address all 9. And that may be that I will update my writing, or I might do another video, or at least make a statement on my video. But it might be that I just send a direct response to him because because I think that I can disprove all the points. But what might happen is that actually that's a really good point. I think it's wrong. I can include that into my writing and say, well, okay, this argument was made against this. Here's why it was incorrect, and that's why I think that my writings are in constant progress. I wrote a writing a few years ago, and it's a video that I will do in coming up. was when did Jesus die? Now, I wrote this article about when I believed it, what day I believe Jesus died. Am I a teacher? No, I'm not a teacher at all. Completely different job. I'd love to do this, as a full-time job, but unfortunately, I don't sell enough books. I don't get enough views. I don't get enough. I get good views on my website. I get something like 400 to 500 people a day on my website, which is pretty good. But there's not much money to be made in terms of ads and stuff, because there's ads on my website that one day I would love to be able to take the ads off of my website, but it's kind of the only way I make any kind of money out of my work apart from my book. So yeah, I just don't make enough money to be able to do this as a full-time job. So I have my own job, which means that I work kind of full-time and more than full-time at the moment. It's pretty. This summer has been absolutely manic for me, and it doesn't look like it's ending anytime soon. So I have to work full-time job. I have to have kind of a life, and I have to study at the same time. So it's lucky that I don't really sleep, or not that many hours each night, as you can probably tell, because I look tired all the time, because I am tired all the time. But yeah, one day, who knows whether I will be able to do this as my full-time job. But yeah, it's kind of a passion. I started doing this 10 years ago when I first became Christian, or when I first found God, because I haven't always been a Christian. When I first found God, I kind of decided that I would read the Bible, and so I read it in a couple of months, in 2 months, and I just read the whole thing. But I found lots of things inside of it that I just didn't really match with. I found the KJV, actually. That was the first Bible that I used. But I found inside of it that I couldn't, because I knew about Christianity, but I didn't know too much about what it taught. But from obviously growing up, you know about Jesus. But what I kind of heard, I didn't find in the Bible. So I thought, well, I want to know what the Bible says, and I'm not just going to go. And then I thought, like, what denomination? There's thousands of these denominations, and I started to really look into all these Bible versions, and I started to look into denominations, and I want to know the truth, and that came my study, and I started to do studies into Bible versions, and then I joined into lots of Christian websites or chat sites and stuff, and then on YouTube and on Facebook, and I was going on to them, and I was reading certain stuff, and I didn't have a clue what I was doing, and I was going on to these sites, and I thought that I'd read something just like lots of people, and I thought, nobody else knows this. This is special. I know it, and I go on to these things, and I get absolutely creamed, absolutely taken apart with what I would say, because I would say something which was regurgitated, which is exactly what a lot of people do. Yeah, and you did the same. It's what a lot of, especially new Christians, do. We read something, and it's slightly different than what normal Christianity states. So you go on thinking that you've found some revelation that nobody else knows about, and actually people do know about it, and because there are quite a lot of studied people out there. But also, even if you did find somebody that didn't know about it, they would argue against you, and you go, well, I have no way of backing that up because I don't know the factual thing. All I know is the regurgitation of what somebody else has stated, and I'm just copying it. I don't know the facts of it, and I don't know the actual proper information, and so I just did this, and I walked into these chat sites and just made a complete and utter fool of myself, and I didn't like it. I didn't like not knowing this information, and so I would study it. So I started to study it, and that's why I got into all of these different studies, and that's why I do it. And now it's just become a passion. It's just become this thing that I just need to study. I need to learn. I need to be able to come up with arguments for my position. I need to come up with arguments against other people's positions. And there have been many things that I've kind of accepted as being fact that when I've then studied it, I found that is not true, or something that I thought that I knew, and then I've studied it and I don't, and then I've changed my mind, and it has happened. So I don't really do too many videos or argumentations now. If I haven't studied the subject, I probably kind of leave it alone, and I don't go into it too much. But yeah, I'm constantly updating. I'm constantly reading. So it might just be one. Oh, I've read Ignatius today, and I didn't notice that before, but actually he supports something that I've written, so I can include that as a witness to something that I've written, and that's basically how my studies go. And then I will go onto a Facebook page, and somebody will state something that I go, "Why is that true? Is that not true?" And then I'll study it, and then I'll do another writing on that. And that's how the vast majority of my writings have come about as well. Just because I've tried to answer something or figure something out that I didn't know before. There's so many things that I want to study. Unfortunately, I just don't have time to do it. But yeah, who knows? One day I may get into that position to be able to do it. I love just offering people a view, something that maybe they haven't heard before, to try and give people a better understanding of what the evidence is. I have no ego to say that you must agree with me, even though I am correct. You don't have to agree with me. You can be wrong. It's up to you. But no, I'm doing it purely because I do it for me, for my study, because I want to know whether I'm, what's true and what's not true. And I pass that information on. And that's it. Every writing that is on my website is free. Although there are ads, everything is free. I don't charge for anything. Even my books. Some people like them in hard print, and I sell them. But all of these writings, all of this, is available free of charge on my website. So I have had people donate to me before, I have a couple of Patreons, not many, but I do. I have a little bit of support in that way. And obviously that means a lot to me that somebody is willing to support my work in that way. I need a few more, but I don't, I don't say, well, you can't have the information if you don't pay for it. It's all free. And that's the way that I am. I've had people donate to in the past. I've had small donations through PayPal and stuff. And I state categorically on my website. If you go to my website, you can see I literally state, if you're tithing to me, don't give me the money. I don't want it. I don't believe in tithes. I would never ask anybody to tithe. I've written against tithing. I don't believe in it. I don't believe that somebody should pay for that information. I'm more than happy to accept donations and stuff in certain circumstances. I certainly don't want anybody giving it to me because they want to or anything kind of in a tithe type way. It's because they believe in what I'm saying, and they just want to help me to do it, and they want me to help get more writings done and spread the word more. That's the only reason why I'll accept donations. I'd rather, buy my book or something, and that obviously supports me. I don't make much from the book. The printers make the vast majority of it, but I make a small amount from that. They're available in ebooks as well. So yeah, that's basically my work is my passion. It's my hobby. It's something I do that brings me a little bit of joy. I don't know where I would be without the study. I need to do the study, and I want other people to have access to it, to be more aware of, dealing with people like the Hebrew Israelites, dealing with different groups, Catholics and stuff. And I want people to have argumentations that they can use. So that's what that's for. I also want people to not just regurgitate what they've read. I want people to take a look at the full evidence. And if you then reject what I've stated, fine. I have no problem with that. But at least take a look at the full amount of evidence, not just small pieces. Like I say, in the which I did the other day. Where is it? I put his book. Oh, there. The James White book, which has got argumentations against the KJV and the readings for the modern critical text. But there's this book. It's nearly 300 pages. For the longer ending of Mark, there are 3 pages. There are 3 pages dedicated to the evidence. I spent 2 hours talking about the evidence for the longer ending of Mark. There are 3 pages in here. And to read 3 pages is going to take you 5 minutes. He hasn't presented the full evidence. That's an agenda. There's an agenda there. That's a pure agenda. He wants to kind of mislead people into thinking that there's a problem, and that there isn't evidence for the longer ending of Mark. And he categorically stated, James White, that he would never preach from the longer ending of Mark. Yeah, he's a fraud. He's a very, very studied man. I respect him. There's no question about it. He knows a lot, and he is a very, very skilled debater. But he's very biased, and the argumentations that he presents they're just not full, and they're not factual. We're going to look into James White and his incorrect statement about how Sinaiticus was and it's in this book that he states it, and it's been proven. He's been proven wrong, and he still hasn't. Even in his subsequent editions, he's never repented of that, and he's never removed it. He makes claims about how Sinaiticus was found, and it's completely incorrect what he states. But he's been shown wrong, and he refuses to accept that. He is a studied man, but he basically he repeats a lot of Metzger and Metzger's incorrect argumentations, and he gives part truths and doesn't give the full information. You have to give the full information and let other people make up your mind. The reason why he's doing that is, one, because it sells books, because it's controversy, and Muslims use James White as proof against the Bible, because they'll quote James White's argumentations. Mark, the longer ending of Mark is not scripture. James White says he's a Christian and he knows what he's talking about. He's a scholar. He's top quality scholar. You don't know what you're talking about, and that's what Muslims will use. They'll use James White because he is a very well known scholar. So they'll use him, and they'll use that then as proof of why the Bible is shouldn't be trusted. And that's what they'll do. So they'll use James White. They'll use Bart Ehrman in other videos, which I've stated. They'll use them. But again, you're only presenting part of the evidence and not the full evidence. You have to present the full evidence, and you have to accept that you're not, if you are not going to give the information that that is going to attract those particular people, you're going to end up with a much smaller group following you. But I'd rather a much smaller group who are willing to investigate and look at the information, even if you don't agree with me, than just say something because I know that people are going to like it. I could have, with the writings and all the information that I've done, if I was to state some certain doctrines, and I won't go into them, but if I believed in some certain doctrines, I would have a lot more followers. But I can't get those followers because of those other doctrines. So I lose different demographics because of the certain doctrines that I've got. Like the Unitarian group are not going to follow me because I use a KJV. There's so many people out there that are so anti the KJV. They're not going to. They won't listen to me because I'm crazy on that. But then Trinitarians are not going to follow me because or there are KJV out there who are not going to follow me because of my other beliefs. So Calvinism, the Christian cult. Calvinism is a cult. James White is a Calvinist. Now there are people out there that will accept James White even with his Calvinist beliefs that are not Calvinist. But then they'll reject that, but they accept on certain things that he will state. But yeah, I could, if I preached to the itchy ears, I'd probably have a lot more followers than what I have with the studies that I've got, the writings that I've done. I probably could be a better known. My book, this one, I had a very, very well-known, and I won't say his name, but I had a very, very well-known, well-known in this kind of context anyway, in that group. I'm sure most people know of Anthony Rogers. He's well known to he's part of, I'm not sure he's part of that group, but he is friends with Anthony Rogers as well. That actually read my book and was willing to do a foreword on it. And had he done that foreword, I probably would have had a lot more sales of that book, because, like I say, he was very well known, and he's written a book against that, and he sold lots of copies. And he's also been on James White's is it the Dividing Line? I think it's the Dividing Line. So he was going to do a foreword, but then found out about certain doctrine that I hold and said that he could no longer offer me to do that, the foreword on my book, and then he couldn't promote it, despite the fact that the book he agreed with, but because of my other doctrines he couldn't. So what book was that? So what, as in my book, you mean? Or you? Yeah, so that, my book. But this guy has written his own book in that kind of genre. I won't state his name, just on the basis that he might not take to. It's not that I'm not bothered. I just don't want to name the people that are not here so I'm not gonna, I won't do that. May not want to be associated with my book. Yeah, Dividing Christians Line. Yeah, that's basically what he does. I've written more than one book. So my other book is this one. Is God moral? So this one is like 290 pages or something. This one's bigger than the other one, but in this one I basically just go through 5 arguments that are used against God being moral. So the sacrifice of Isaac, the sanctioning of rape in the Bible, the sanctioning of slavery in the Bible, the killing of the firstborn children in Egypt, and stoning as a punishment. And So I go through those 5 specific arguments that are used against God being moral by some people, mainly atheists, I would say, that use that and show why those arguments are not, they don't stand up. So yeah, those are the two books that I've written. I'm in the process of writing actually 3, the 3rd and 4th. I'm in between them, so I'm doing contradictions in the Bible, which is already close on 300 pages, but there's some more I need to do with that, just updating, and I just haven't had time to get to it. And then I'm also working on another book as well, which hopefully one of the books hopefully will be released sometime this year, but I'm not too sure. I'm just struggling with time to be able to get into properly putting it all together and doing the writings. Most of the contradiction one is done. It's just getting it into a book form and putting it together and getting it out there. Those 2 were kind of written during lockdown, so it was a little bit easier for me to be able to find time to write, but not finding that time at the moment. But yeah, okay, it's 2 hours and 41 minutes that I've basically just rambled on for 40 minutes like I normally do. Again, I appreciate everybody that's been in, that's come in, gone out, come back. Anybody that watches this in the future and thinks, wow, this guy just chats. I am chatting purely on the basis that there are people watching, and there are a little bit of interaction. But because there isn't a huge interaction, obviously, in people coming on or anything, it's basically me chatting away. But you've stayed to listen to me ramble, so fair enough. I do appreciate it. But I think I will call that a day now. Thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. The subscribers do help on YouTube, because obviously it helps push the video up into, the rankings and stuff that YouTube do. I don't really understand it too much, but yeah, it helps with getting views by having more subscribers and stuff. So you never know, somebody might come along and listen to the ramblings of a man. Anyway, okay, thank you very much for watching. I am going to call it a day there. Do appreciate it, and I'm not sure when my next video is going to be, but probably I won't get one done during the week, but I might get one done next weekend. So we'll see. Again, thank you very much, and I will see you on my next video. Thanks for everybody that's stayed for the near 3 hours. It is appreciated. Thank you.